All right, let's just dive right into this explainer today because I've got a fascinating story that absolutely perfectly sets the stage for us. Just picture this, okay? A guy pulls up to open his traditional shop, and parked right outside is his ride, a beat-up, old Maruti 800. Now, if you looked at him and that car, you'd probably assume, he's just scraping by, trying to make ends meet. But you would be totally wrong, because secretly, sitting quietly in his bank account, is 4.7 crores. I mean, naturally, people notice that kind of contrast, right? So one day, a really curious neighbor finally walks up and just asks the question everyone's been thinking. He says, "Brother, you work so incredibly hard every single day. With the business you do, why don't you buy a better car? Why not upgrade your lifestyle just a little bit?" And you know what the shop owner does? He just gives this knowing smile and says absolutely nothing. So why doesn't he buy a better car? Unpacking that silent answer reveals 10 traditional banya habits. These are practices from a historically super successful Indian mercantile community that generate what we call quiet, permanent wealth. Honestly, most people have never even heard of these principles because they go completely against modern consumer culture. So we're going to count them down today, and by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly why that dusty Maruti 800 is actually a symbol of absolute financial power. Moving into Section 1, the meaning of quiet wealth. This is really the foundation of true financial independence. So, we're starting our reverse countdown with a massive foundational shift in mindset. Here's the stark reality. Habit 10 dictates that true wealth should be invisible. I'm talking no flashy designer brands, no ridiculously huge houses, and no luxury cars unless you genuinely need them. Why? Well, because looking wealthy is incredibly costly, but actually being wealthy, it's surprisingly cheap. In fact, there was a major US study of millionaires that found 71% of them drive cars worth way less than you'd expect. The rule here is simple. What you see is rarely the reality of wealth, and real wealth is rarely seen. And that brilliantly illustrates the golden rule of quiet wealth. Put your money where it grows, not where it shows. Which leads us perfectly into habit 9. Think about a really well-run shop. Every single item on the shelf has a purpose, right? If it doesn't serve a purpose, it just doesn't get shelf space. Well, habit 9 applies that exact same logic to your money. Every single rupee has to have a job. There is absolutely zero room for idle money just sitting uselessly in a basic savings account. The whole strategy here is that idle cash gets swept into high-yield, fixed deposits, or liquid mutual funds instantly. Look, even an emergency fund should be in a sweep-in FD, so it's actually earning interest while still being ready for you. Dead money is literally losing value every single day because inflation is just constantly eating away at it. The mindset is super simple. If your money isn't working, then you are working for your money. And trust me, we want the exact opposite of that. Let's move on to Section 2, impulses and social costs. We're talking about managing excitement and expectations here. You see, building wealth isn't just about the math, it's heavily about psychology and, honestly, managing the people around you. Habit 8 introduces the strict 48-hour rule. For literally any purchase over 3,000 rupees, the practice is to wait 48 hours. No exceptions. It doesn't matter if there's some massive flash sale, or if the offer expires at midnight, or it's a today-only deal. The waiting period applies. And it's not because you can't afford it. It's actually a structural defense mechanism against your own brain. Here's the crucial point. Decisions made in excitement almost always cost you more than decisions made in calm. After that 48-hour cooling off period, you'll suddenly realize you don't actually need like 90% of the stuff sitting in your cart. That remaining 10% you still want? Okay, that's a genuine need. A smart wealth builder never buys on impulse. They always stop and ask, am I still genuinely going to need this tomorrow? Now, habits 7 and 6 tackle the invisible and, let's face it, often painful costs of society. Habit 7 is the rule of lending. Money lent to friends and family is effectively lost money. So the rule is to only lend an amount you can comfortably afford to gift. If it comes back, great, that's a massive bonus. If not, your relationship is still safe because you aren't secretly harboring resentment. Habit 6 is equally tough. You've got to keep your salary raises and promotions a total secret for at least 6 months. No new phone, no apartment upgrade, and definitely no flashy vacation posts. So why do this? Well, because the exact moment people know your income has gone up, their expectations rise too. Suddenly, you get hit with the treat due tax from your friends and, increase financial expectations from your family. By staying quiet for just those first 6 months, that entire gap of extra income can be channeled straight into your investments before lifestyle creep or social pressure can even touch it. Salary secret, investment silent, results eventually visible. That is where quiet wealth truly starts. Okay, section 3, the math of money management. This is where we look at the actual numbers behind the philosophy.
So now we're going to apply pure math to all these behavioral habits. We've controlled our impulses and our social pressures. Now we really need to measure the results. Habit 5 tells us to be our own accountant. Just pick one day a month, sit down with a calculator and look at what came in, what went out, what's left, and exactly what your total net worth is today compared to last month. Yes, I know it sounds incredibly boring, but banks, investors, and highly successful businesses do this relentlessly. Usually it's only middle-class individuals who skip this step. Taking this one boring day a month is the fundamental difference between actively growing your wealth and just reaching the end of the month scratching your head, wondering where all your money magically vanished to. Remember, what gets measured gets managed.
And this takes us right into habit 2, which emphasizes a tax-first approach. Look, most people just invest whatever happens to be left over from their salary at the end of the month. But a quiet wealth builder, they invest before the salary even hits their account. Think about the guaranteed 20% return we're talking about here. If you're in a 20% tax bracket and you utilize an investment that saves you taxes, like Section 80C in India, investing 1.5 lakhs essentially gives you a guaranteed, totally risk-free 20% return right out of the gate. I mean, you earned that money by simply not giving it to the government. You secure your tax savings first, and then you live on the rest. All right, moving on to Section 4, the ultimate wealth compounders. These are the final rules that make all the rest possible.
These are really the advanced rules that separate the truly wealthy from the middle class, and they create real generational financial security. Habit 4 is perhaps the most rigid of them all. It's the non-negotiable rule of never breaking the principle. You can spend the returns, sure, but the principle itself is untouchable. Not for a wedding, not for a house, not even for an emergency. Just think about the stark difference in the final result here. Say you leave 10 lakhs to compound over 10 years. It might grow to 25 lakhs. But if halfway through you break that investment to withdraw 5 lakhs for an emergency, your final result might only be 7.5 lakhs. That single decision to break the principle for a 5 lakh emergency literally ended up costing you 17.5 lakhs in lost compounding. Let that sink in.
And guys, this is exactly why we have emergency funds in the first place. Emergency funds are for emergencies. Your principal investments, however, are the seed. And the rule is brutally simple. If you eat the seed today just to solve a temporary problem, you will never, ever get the tree tomorrow. Keep that principle completely untouched.
Now, habit 3 is maintaining what is traditionally called a second shop, basically a secondary stream of income. You never want to depend entirely on a single source. It can be freelancing, creating digital products, rental income, or even just consistent dividend income. The initial amount you make honestly doesn't matter. It's the system itself that matters. Even a seemingly boring 2,000 rupees extra a month, if compounded over 10 years, turns into nearly 4.6 lakhs.
It's like they say, boring money creates an exciting life. While your primary job or your first job pays the daily bills and feeds your family, it's actually the systemic discipline of this secondary income, that second shop, that ultimately purchases your financial freedom. Which brings us, finally, to the ultimate habit. Habit number 1. Now, this isn't a tax hack or some hot stock tip. It's the profound mindset shift that makes all the other 9 habits possible. It's the constant, relentless pursuit of learning. The quote really says it best. Invest money in the market, invest your brain in books. Think about someone like Warren Buffett, who still spends like 80% of his day reading, or those legendary investors who just study the market deeper than anyone else out there. It becomes super clear that knowledge compounds way faster than money ever could. A 400 rupee finance book, a 2,000 rupee online course, or hey, even paying for a 200 rupee cup of tea just to sit down with a mentor, these are absolutely not expenses. They are hands down the highest return investments you will ever make in your entire life. A mind that understands wealth is always going to generate it, even if they have to start from absolute zero. That person driving that dusty old Maruti 800, he didn't need to explain himself to his neighbor because he already completely understood the math of freedom. Look, quiet wealth isn't built overnight, and honestly, you don't have to adopt all 10 of these habits all at once. You just start with one. A committed learner is always going to be a confused one. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. Look back at the habits we've covered today. What is the one single habit you are going to commit to starting right now, today? Think about it, make your choice, and start building your own quiet wealth. Until next time, keep learning, and keep compounding.